Hello and welcome to the Irish Angle in Association with William Hill. Make sure to download the William Hill app to check out all their best offers across the Irish and UK racing. Joined for this week's show by Paddy Flood and Johnny Ward. As usual, lads, how are you keeping?
Not so bad, Emma.
All good, Emma, thanks.
Very good. Plenty to get through on today's show. Just to give a quick mention, Johnny started a new podcast. It's going to be out this Friday again, The Irish Edge. Johnny, you'll be previewing the Dublin Racing Festival this Friday, I think, will you?
Yeah, myself and Tommy Lyons, we just did a good start to the show with our Cheltenham selections, including a good Irish winner on the day for Jimmy Mangan as well, and some we just had good chats. Well, it was good to do something with Tommy. He's just kind of finished up working for the Irish Examiner, so he's one of I suppose an increasing amount of freelance journalists in sport who have to kind of branch out as the newspaper game becomes more challenging. But it was a lot of fun in the podcast studios in Dublin, and I mean it wasn't hard to talk about Cheltenham, Emma, but next weekend we'll be recording between declarations for of Saturday and Sunday, but we more or less know what's run on Sunday. We'll have all Saturday's decks, so really looking forward to that. And Dublin Race Festival is going to be pretty epic, I think, and I'm thrilled to be involved with it.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Keep an eye out for that on Friday, lads. It'll be definitely worth a listen with a massive weekend of racing ahead of us. But we'll kind of review a bit of the stuff that happened last week. And like I said, there's plenty in there. We'll start off with Cheltenham. Again, plenty to discuss here. And unfortunately, most of it probably not on a positive note. We'll start off the international hurdle. I suppose everyone the race was clouded by the injury of Sergino. A statement released by Nicky Henderson there in the last day or so. He's fractured his pelvis. It's not uncommon, and look, he's hoping to make a full recovery. Whether that would be on the track or at home, it's yet to see. But look, I suppose when you were watching it live, Paddy, it was probably maybe one of the better possible outcomes. It kind of looked quite bad at the time, but good to see that he's made it home and he's likely to recover fully.
Yeah, I was really worried, Emma. I wasn't sitting down watching it. I was kind of in and out of the room watching the race, kind of nearly watching every hurdle more so than anything else. And I just caught the tail end of him being pulled up with his off hind. He was keeping it up off the ground, and I really did fear the worst. I thought maybe he'd broken a hind leg, but the best outcome of a bad situation, I suppose. Superstar horse that has only reappeared back on the track, and just gutted. I really I've nothing to do with the horse. I've never backed him, or I've never done anything like that, but I really felt it in the gut myself just watching it. It was horrible, and to hear that he was able to walk into the horse ambulance afterwards was a great relief. Just bad luck, the horse, he was off the track for a year, nearly died of a disease. He's just been an unlucky horse for all his talent. I'm pretty sure, well, I'm 90% sure that he'll recover at home, and it'd be very hard to justify bringing him racing again.
Yeah, I suppose it probably depends on the extent of the fracture. If it was a hairline fracture, the recovery might be relatively simple. But I suppose we don't know how bad it is yet, Johnny. But look, it was a sickener, and you'd have to really feel for connections there. Like, he obviously had a hard time of it last year as well with his issues, and they got him back in peak condition. Yeah, it was just tough viewing.
It was tough viewing. Yeah, it was slightly like Paddy there, because I was actually on a soccer show that I do on Saturdays, and probably a bit of an, I don't know whether it been the most professional. I was kind of supposed to be talking about soccer, but I was watching the race on my phone, and I was like, what's happening here? He's just pulling them up, and I was like Paddy. I was thinking, this isn't going to be good now. There's every chance this horse going to be put down. Bad publicity, desperate for the horse, desperate for connections, and I suppose you could say for all that, Sergino's connections, the Donnellys, they don't lack for money and all that in life. They've been a bit unlucky in that division this year, and it's taken a lot away from the 2 mile division in a way. But I suppose at the same time, now we'll see if Constitution Hill can maybe come back into it. The new Lion, who was second favourite more or less for the race, champion hurdle before the race itself, he didn't seem to do enough to impress people maybe that he deserves to be favourite now with so much around Lossiemouth, and the likes of Anzadam has come in an awful lot in the betting as well. Some people might have some reasonable positions now that everything's changed, because like Sergino was basically an even money odds on shot for the champion hurdle if he turned up, and he's gone from the race. It was a very, very slow gallop, like really, really slow gallop. So I wouldn't be too harsh in the New Line for sort of scrambling home a bit. I thought he won readily enough, but very disappointed with Sergino. But to be fair, the fact that he's going to survive it by the looks of it is by far the best outcome of it. And it's just opened up that division a lot now.
Yeah, 100%. Really opened it up, and like you'd have to say, they might be a bit mad not to go there with Lossiemouth now. She's gone into 11-4 favourite for the champion hurdle. The new line 3-1. Constitution Hill 5-1. Might be a little bit poetic to see him winning it now after a massive setback for Nicky Henderson there. But Paddy, what did you make of the performance of the new line? I don't know. I think maybe beating Nimeen Line a length and a half, getting £3 off him wouldn't really be a champion hurdle performance for me. But what did you think of it?
I actually thought he'd done well to win, to be honest. It was a nothing race. It was a nothing race once Sergino went over it. The two lads were kind of playing jockeys before the tapes went up. Nico was going to stalk Harry and tip around, but the horse done well to win now. It turned into just a complete sprint. And you could see Harry, he never let off the handbrake at a jump, and they did say it afterwards that, and it was probably the right plan, that you're after coming off the back of a fall, a bit of a grab, and Harry said something after it that really, pricked my ears. He said he wanted to put a bit of manners on him, and he did. You could see that going to hurdles. He was grabbing a hold of him, and he was making it very decisive that he didn't want the horse to stand off too far, and he wanted him to learn and get in and rub a hurdle and let the horse know that the hurdles aren't going to hurt him when he does give him a wrap. So he'll need that in a champion hurdle. I'd say it's going to be, unless Constitution Hill pops up, it's going to be a very ordinary champion hurdle. And I mean, Jesus Christ, we just get the finger out and aim him for the champion hurdle. It's going to be the softest race he's ever going to get. He's got Lossiemouth in his pocket already, and beat her well and beat her easy. And I mean, he's the best 2-miler out there. But look, he has to jump. But come on, get him there, get him into the race, get a run over hurdles on him. Stop messing around on the flash stupidity. But look, I think the new line, the price he's at now is probably a fair enough price in this sort of race, because at the start of the year he was the favourite. Even with all the horses there, everyone was fit, everyone was healthy. He was a short price horse, and I think myself and Johnny just weren't keen on him at the start of the year either. But look, he's that price now. He deserves to be that price. A faster run champion hurdle, he'll have a good chance. And you know what? I think he nearly win a champion hurdle if they go quick.
Yeah, look, I suppose, like you said, with the kind of the strength of the race, like Lossiemouth, again, not guaranteed to go. Like they'll still have the mayor's hurdle in their mind, like no matter what people think about that. Constitution Hill, again, not guaranteed to go. So the new line kind of default favourite in that regard. I suppose we'll see what Brighter Days Ahead does at the weekend. And we'll probably make a better judgment on that. But we'll move on. The Costwold Chase, Johnny, brilliant result there for Jimmy Mangan. He's priming his horse, Leopardstown, kind of to go to the Gold Cup now. I'd imagine he's in the Ryanair as well, so would you imagine they might be targeted the Gold Cup with this horse? He was very good on the day, and he's just kind of peaking at the right time, I suppose, for Jimmy.
Yeah, I thought this race just fitted in very nicely. It was a small field, and he's been hurdling. This allowed him to kind of just get his eye in again over fences. I think maybe the tactics in the race were slightly surprising for me, because obviously you had the Flooring Porter was coming back into conventional, was come back into racing, but didn't make the run. And Leopardstown then, I mean, if you'd backed him, like he was initially put in around 5-1. I definitely thought Grey Dawning was too short. Like I thought Leopardstown, he had a lot going for him on the day, like getting weight and a small field, like with plenty of ability on his day, and on ratings he'd every chance. And it basically worked out. Like Jack Kennedy was able to take a nice lead off Lompresse. And once Grey Dawning wasn't able to quicken, he had him kind of, even though it was only 3 parts of length, he had him readily enough beaten. He was actually 100-1 in the place for the Gold Cup. He's now into kind of 14 after the race. And with the fact of File not going there, I imagine they'll go for this. I mean, I know the way you're thinking. He's not actually fair for the Gold Cup anymore, but like he is the one. But at the same time, he has questions maybe against him. So, I was delighted for Jimmy Mangan. Like it's the dream is very much back on here now. I think I thought it was a good performance. Wouldn't be good enough to win a Gold Cup, but he has a turn of foot, this horse. Like, so if he can get into a jumping rhythm in the Gold Cup and the ground is softish, he's definitely not without a chance. It's one of those races that plenty can go wrong in, and it was a good performance. And I thought Jack was actually just very well. Jack is very good anyway, but I just thought he's very good in him.
Yeah, I'd say looking at in a relatively open-looking Gold Cup, he'd have to have a bit of an each-way shout. Anyway, Paddy, he tried to take out the opposition at the start there, gave Grey Dawning a good old kicking before they jumped off. What did you make of the race?
It was a very interesting race to watch. I still don't understand the tactics with Grey Dawning. You're going out there to see does the horse stay. Jack was, for all intentions, going to follow the grey horse, but Harry wouldn't let it happen. I know he got a kick or whatever, but when Jack's horse kicked out, then he eventually, you could see him just switching his mind and saying, actually, I'm going to sit second here. My horse is probably better than the leader anyway, and I'll dictate the race. So I don't know, like Grey Dawning there could have been sitting second with a lovely, Harry could have controlled the speed and then seen does he really stay the 3 miles. I just thought it was a strange sort of ride. A horse is fit and everything. You could have even sit up sides they were going that slow. But I just want to touch on Jack Kennedy's ride. That's the difference between good riders and really special riders. If you watch the race again, and maybe the layman won't know this, but if you go down and watch the height Jack's horse gave the first fence, and he went down, he ballooned it, he went to the clouds. But watch what Jack does. He grabs the bit, gets the horse back up into the bridle, goes down to the second, doesn't move. The horse balloons again, he goes really, really high. Now, if any other jockey's riding him and you go down, you force him to the third fence, that horse is going to stay jumping big. So this famous rhythm we talk about, you think it just happens, and you think the horse just does it. It doesn't. If Jack had to squeeze that horse once, he'd have jumped big for the whole way around. If you just watch it back, just watch how will I put it, that the bit, the reins up in the horse's mouth, the bit up in his mouth, and he just let the horse think, oh my God, yeah, this is so easy. This is really, really easy for me to do. And you could see fence by fence, the horse just got more confident. And eventually the horse just started shortening and quickening for Jack. But that doesn't just happen. If you see jockeys going down hoofing to fences, it's wrong. There's probably one horse out of 20 that needs that. And most of them need a little bit of confidence. And the horse just thought he was in a piece of work. He thought he was at home, just cantering around, no stress, no nothing, quickened at the right time, let the horse in front go when his horse was tight, never rushed him at the back of a hurdle. He made him stay climbing out of back. He left his hind end in it. And just watch it again. Any of us would have went, squeeze him back into the bridle. We're after losing 2 lengths here. He didn't. He literally just stood back up in the irons, let the horse get back into the bridle himself. And the horse just grew in confidence from there. And even from the back of the last, he was just giving him a little nudge. He got a little fright at one stage, give him 1 tap behind the saddle or 2 taps behind the saddle. That horse is going to come out that race absolutely buzzing and thinking that racing is easy. I just thought it was the difference watching riders of an absolute top class jockey.
Yeah, he was brilliant. I was a bit worried after seeing him jump in the first, to be fair. He did fairly balloon it, but like you said, Jack got him into some rhythm. And you'd imagine he'd probably be on him come the Gold Cup now as well. Mark Walsh, you'd think will ride. I know the way you're thinking. So Splans Tower and Jack Kennedy, they've built a fair relationship now. And I'm sure Jimmy wouldn't mind having him back on board in a few weeks.
I think Jimmy would be buzzing to run in a Gold Cup. It's very rare you get a Gold Cup horse. So I'd say he'd be leaning that way. Now, he will be told where to go, but do you know what? He'll be a lovely ride because he won't be a favourite. He won't be He might be a little bit like, I know the way you're thinking last year, that where Jack would actually just lob around and pick up the pieces.
Yeah, look, I'm sure we'd all love to see Jimmy Mangan go into the Gold Cup with a big contender back on the big stage. It'd be good to see it, and he wouldn't be without an each way chance for me anyway. I think it was a lovely prep, and I think Jimmy has to be given all the credit for training him up to this point, and he looks to be peaking just at the right time, so he could win a big race in Cheltenham for sure. But one more huge talking point to come from Cheltenham at the weekend: the hole in the ground, lads. It was well publicised, I suppose, on social media and on racing TV on the day. I actually wasn't watching the racing live. I was gone out to help a neighbour with a pony or something by the time the last race was on, but someone sent me a video of the groundsman sticking his hand into the hole and his arm basically disappearing, going down to China nearly. Look, racing TV were fairly critical of the decision to race on. There was a fairly strongly worded interview, I suppose, for Lydia Hislop with the clerk of the course, John Pullen. Most of the racing participants, trainers, jockeys seemed happy to go ahead with it. The groundsmen seemed happy to go ahead with the racing, and luckily there was no incidents occurred. So it looks like their decision was fairly justified in the end. Paddy, what did you make of the whole goings on with the last race in Cheltenham?
I just thought nobody was the winner of this, and I think it's been blown a little bit more of proportion than it should have been. Look, it's never nice when a track has a problem. We were probably lucky that someone didn't put a foot in it. But listen, I've plenty of time for Lydia Hislop. I think she does a great job. And her program with Ruby Road to Cheltenham was really good until they changed it. I find it a little bit boring at the minute, but I do value her opinion and everything. But this wasn't an interview. This was an attack on the clerk of the course. And it's basically, she's doubled down as well on Twitter saying, why would you bother having the opinions of people in the sport who are benefactors of the race going ahead? Now, I'd rather have Gavin Sheehan and the Murphys and the Nicky Hendersons of this world telling me where they should gallop a horse and why it's safe to gallop a horse, and their opinion would rate a lot higher than Lydia Hislop's opinion for me. If you're talking about galloping horses on ground, something that these people do for a living, and it's their lives that are at risk as well. I know there is a big risk with a horse and the welfare, but she's blown more now for the welfare side of things, and the anti-racing people are jumping on her comments. And look, that's her opinion. But for me, it felt very much like that clerk of the course came to speak. He probably didn't have to speak to racing TV, but he did, and he got ambushed. And it didn't sit well with me. I didn't like it. There's plenty of other things that Lydia Hislop could come out and complain about in British racing, but she doesn't choose to. But she chose a man after being put under pressure, a snap decision, made a decision, nothing happened afterwards, nothing went wrong. Now listen, if we want to go back and say, well, this could have happened, well, that could have happened. You get into a car every day of the week. Now, maybe Johnny Ward doesn't because he still doesn't drive yet, but you get into that car, you could be killed on the road. Or you walk out your front door and you could be killed crossing the road. If there's a traffic light out someday, that's a massive disaster. And if you could get hit by a car as a pedestrian, no horse was hurt. We were lucky early on when they didn't spot the hole. They spotted the hole. Now, I'm no expert on irrigation or anything like that, and I'm sure Lydia Hislop isn't either. But in my opinion, it's too much. She was too much. She was too aggressive on the clerk of the course, a man doing his job and being thrown under the bus for it. And look, that was fine, but then discounting Nicky Henderson and the jockeys and trainers' opinions, it's just I don't know. It was maybe it came off the back of the horse getting injured that the mood was quite low. I just thought it wasn't great viewing, to be honest with you.
I tend to agree with you. I'd say, like you said, maybe emotions were running high after, sad circumstances earlier on in the day. And the kind of inference was made as well that Nicky Henderson had pulled out the horse because of the hole in the ground. But Nicky himself came out to clear that up yesterday, saying, it had nothing to do with the hole. It was more to do with the ground deteriorating, getting too heavy for the horse. So that's why he pulled him out. And he was in full support of Cheltenham afterwards. Johnny, what did you make, I suppose, of the decision to race and of the media coverage of it afterwards?
Yeah, I was late to the party with this, to be honest. I wasn't watching at the time. There's a song, I Wish I Was a Mole in the Ground, and this is obviously I Wish I Was a Hole in the Ground, or I Wish I Wasn't a Hole in the Ground, but it was definitely an issue for the Clerk of the course. Like, clerks of the course aren't spoken about that much, but I will say it's somewhat thankless job, but definitely a pressurized job. Like, and Lorcan Wire has stepped away from being a clerk, we'll say, in recent months. And he did that for very genuine reasons. And I think you really there's actually a lot of internal pressure in terms of the ground on a given day, and you're not looking after the ground. Like, obviously it's not your ground, but you have to be answerable to so many people, and obviously welfare is the main one. But I do feel with this that if these are jockeys, some of them who go out hunting, and some of them who ride in cross country races, like they're well used to little issues there, or little kind of obstacles, or little things that are just part of the challenge. And I in this instance, as I would say before, I'm not a jockey. I would defer to the riders and the trainers involved, and if they were happy, that is good enough for me, because they're taking their own lives into consideration, and those of the animals as well under them. So I can see both points of view. I think Lee Mott said is right, and if something had gone wrong, it would have looked terrible. But they made a call on the day. Danny Mullins rode the favourite, no excuses whatsoever, he said, in relation to the ground. So I would defer to them. And I just feel with clerks of the course, from my experiences with them, they have to put up with a lot. They really do have to put up with a lot, and they're rarely thanked much.
Yeah, look, I think the media were definitely, they were within their rights to question the decision, but like Paddy said, I thought the interview was maybe a bad tone set to it, I suppose. And we have to have confidence, kind of like you both said, that the professionals, the groundsmen, the jockeys, the trainers, they know more than most about ground management and what could have caused this, and they assessed the risk and felt it was safe to go, and their decision was justified in the end. I just didn't like the way, not just the interview with John Pullen, but the entire kind of coverage of it. It kind of just seemed to create hysteria, which kind of dragged onto social media, which can always be a bit of a cesspit anyway. But yeah, Twitter kind of got hold of it, and there was fairly mixed opinions on it all now. But I thought, like many people said, a mountain made out of a bit of a molehill there, and probably something just to move on from and forget about for now, I suppose. But we'll move on, lads. Go back to Goran on Thursday. Great meeting there, Johnny, for the Tyestes. Good crowd, and really testing ground, made it a bit difficult for punters, but good that they got it ahead anyway.
Yeah, I had to laugh at one clerk of the course, Paddy Graffin's update on the Wednesday, because I just could not believe that Goran was going ahead. The rain that we were getting, and I think you might have been, or certainly people down the southeast were saying it. And Paddy Graffin's report, Paddy Graffin is such a great guy, and he gave such an upbeat bulletin on Goran, and I was like, God, this is mad. I really thought I was giving it a million this meeting to be going ahead. And not only that, but I don't think there was an inspection called. And Paddy and Eddie Scally, all the ground staff, they nailed this. They really nailed it, because the ground, not only did the ground hold up, and I think you got to give the jockeys credit for that. They rode the conditions. I'm sure the finishing times would bear testament to that. When you've a trainer as honest as Willie Mullins, who's running 3 horses in a beginner's chase, one is 14s, one is even money, and one is 9-2, and with the colours they're running in, these horses are trying. And that beginner's chase with Soldier and Milan 4th, who was part of this brilliant finish as well. A short head, a nose, and a neck after 2.5 miles of a beginner's chase. You had Morelli beating West of Ignace by a neck in a brilliant finish as well. Home by the Lee and Staffordshire Knot. It was actually fantastic jumps racing on terrible ground that was definitely borderline unraceable. but held up on the day. And then you had the Tyestes, which I just felt it was like a race that I met people in the pub afterwards who backed like better times ahead, and they were like felt down on their luck. But I was like, what if you're Sean Cleary Farrell, or what if you're the connections of that horse, who basically, I think was likely to win and was the unlucky horse in the race. And then, the unlucky horse after that was probably better times ahead. It was obviously hampered by the loose horse after last, but it was incredible racing. Like I spoke to Eddie Scally, like what would it have meant to the bottom line if this meeting didn't go ahead? And you'd be amazed, like you would be amazed how much. And I think like they did everything they could to get it to go ahead. And I felt the racing held up brilliantly. It's a unique day. It's a racetrack in the middle of nowhere, really. Its signature meeting is running a midweek day in the middle of winter. It's unique. It's old school. And Eddie sent me actually a montage of some of the photos and some of the videos from the day. It just looked. I wasn't there now. I was actually working on our podcast, but it was a great. It looked a great day in terrible cold, like winter weather, but fantastic racing. And I hope. I got to give mention actually as well to Paul Townend, because I wasn't there, but one of the things that shone after the Tyestes was a senior jockey. You might remember your old friend Paddy Flood. You might remember your old friend Roger Locke when he that day at Leopardstown, and Desi Hughes immediately putting his hand around him. Paul Townend and Sean Cleary Farrell exactly like that. Knowing when a young lad is down in his luck, and he was so gutted about the whole thing. Paul Townend was straight over to him, making sure that everything was going to be all right. And I don't think that should be forgotten.
Yeah, we'll chat a bit about the Tyestes, Paddy. An incident-filled race, I suppose, to say the least. Captain Cody was subject of a fair gamble. In fairness, he was heavily back before the off. He unshipped Paul Townend early on. Then it looked like Spanish Harlem had it all sewn up before he unshipped young Sean Cleary Farrell at the last fence. And then the drama unfolded. But now was the hour pull down the Robert Traynor time, better times ahead. It was a race that didn't lack in drama. I'm sure the crowd there enjoyed it anyway.
Yeah, always great race, Emma, at the Tyestes. And unfortunately, I've had plenty of rides in it. I was second in it one year with a horse called I've Had It. Big old woolly colours we used to have, and used to ride him in the summer. You'd be sweating going out to the parade ring. But Tyestes meeting, you were delighted to have the old woolly colours. But race had everything. I've no doubt that the horse that would have won it, Sean Cleary Farrell, came off. And listen, people might think I'm very critical on jockeys at some time. I'm not. I'm critical on the ones that they've made it. They're champion jockeys, and they're riding the best horses in Europe over a jump. And if they do something wrong, I think it's an easy pick out, and it should be called out when at the very top end. But Sean Cleary Farrell, if anybody knows this young lad, he's the salt of the earth. He's a hard-working, nice, genuine, down-to-earth young man. He spends a bit of time in France. Hasn't had it easy in life. If you know the story about his dad, you might not, but you could have a look at it. And listen, I don't know what he did. I honestly don't know what he did, Sean himself, because I think he was just trying to win too much, and sometimes that happens. If you're playing sport and you're playing to win, sometimes you can overstep the mark and try too hard. He wanted that horse to get out over the fence faster than he thought he was going to happen. I've seen pictures of him in the air, like he's 2 foot above the saddle with his feet, with no irons. He'd no chance at that stage of staying on him. Gravity shot him up. I don't know how he got shot so high up in the air. The horse looked like he met it pretty much on stride, or just shortened a little bit at the end of it. And Sean Cleary Farrell could ride to that jump 200 times, and he'll get over it 199, and just that one time it happened. So hopefully he can keep his head up and he's not too disappointed by it, and hopefully the boys and Willies look after him a bit. But in saying that, after that happens, you think, here we go, Robert Tyner, Mark Walsh, JP, and got done on the line by a rejuvenated Gavin Cromwell yard. The treble on the day. Great to see. Young man on his back. who's one really to watch. He's gone through that Wexford point-to-point school, and not only are they churning out really good horses, they're churning out really good riders. The likes of Barry O'Neill and who sets the standard down there, and what a standard he's after setting. He's taken over the mantle from Jamie Codd and more so Derek O'Connor as well. But yeah, brilliant race. And like Johnny said there, Paddy Graffin's a great fella. Many a row I've had with Paddy Graffin at the start, and he's not a man you want to get revved up, because I tell you, he gets angry, and he was one of the starters I always had a bit of respect for, probably a little bit of fear as well for him, and I think a lot more riders could probably don't have fear of him anymore. But look, it was a great day, and like Johnny said, bottomless ground, but Goran is bottomless. Once it's soft, it's hard work, because there's a hill you have to climb out the back there as well. It just makes it but it makes a proper true staying race. And look, them first the horse that unseated and the first two home, you'll see them in a national someday, and they'll be bang there.
Yeah, I had plenty of people kind of putting up Spanish Harlem as maybe a national contender. He's up £4 for that, which probably isn't massively harsh. Like, it looked like he was going to win it at the time. So even off a £4 pound higher mark, he's definitely probably got another big one in him. So yeah, hopefully Sean Cleary-Farr, look, he's riding for a big stable there. I'm sure he'll come back and have another big winner down the line for a young man. But a few other bits from Goran. The Galmoy hurdle, Johnny, home by the Lee, back his head back in front. Enigmatic type of horse. Connections probably get a fair kick out of him, I suppose. He can pop up when you're kind of least expecting him.
Yeah, and I suppose in fairness, like, this was a Galmoy that it was a decent renewal of the race, but I suppose, like, Stafford or not, he's not a star. Didn't have like the feel of this is our proper 3 mile horse there. No Tiapu was there, and Gordon was represented by Jerry Calam, whose career is kind of up in the air at the moment. Home by the Lee, he's definitely a quirky character. His rider knows him very well at this stage, but like, as I say, it was a really good finish again between the two horses, I suppose, that were most wanted in the market, and nice job by JJ Slevin.
Yeah, 100%. I thought it was a good run from Jerry Calam there, kind of coming back to form. We haven't seen him maybe in that kind of vein of form in a while. I know back over hurdles, but targeting maybe a national down the line, he could be interesting as well. Seems to be kind of coming back to himself a small bit. And I thought the bumper winner was really impressive. Paddy, a full brother of Gaelic Warrior. Patrick Mullins seemed very smitten with him after the race.
Yeah, he looks like Gaelic Warrior, and I wasn't at the races obviously, but just watching him on the TV, he was marching around the ring, wasn't he? And he's a big stamp, big brute of a horse.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I'd say he appreciated the cut in the ground. He's that way of going about him. He looks like a good, big, solid, sort of ignorant horse, not fragile, just happy to be racing. He looks a proper horse, and that syndicate that bought him, just they're doing well. They've horses with Joseph, and they've plenty of horses with Willie too, and they rarely miss when they buy, and it's great to see.
Yeah, Brosnan Racing, and you'd say he's a fair buy, like a €60,000 foal. Like, what would he have cost as a store? You'd imagine, to be fair, multiples that anyway, being a full brother Gaelic Warrior. So well brought for sure, and yeah, could be an exciting one down the line for them. But a little bit more racing to talk about. Nace yesterday, I suppose they were fortunate maybe to go ahead. They had an inspection at 7:30, managed to pass that. After Fairyhouse was obviously off on Saturday, but good to get a bit of racing ahead in Ireland yesterday, Johnny. And Harry Kelly had a lovely winner. He won the big grade 3 on the day, the Limestone Lad with Glenn Killen. It was a lovely result there.
Yeah, I was gutted Fairyhouse was called off. I was really looking forward to the mayor's race, actually. Really looking forward to it. I thought there was some good bets in the card and some cracking racing. So, and then I kind of got the vibe Nace isn't going to go ahead either. But a bit more confidence then as the weekend went on, they might be okay. And again, the ground looked to hold up pretty fine. I suppose the star performer was maybe another bumper horse in the shape of then it was actually interesting. This bumper was run early in the car. Love Sign Danjou. So like Willie it's very, very hard to compare these horses on the ground that they're running on and these slowly run bumpers. But like our Trigger was very impressive. But like I do think the other horse to mention, Matt Connor, he's Philip Dempsey's doing a nice job with him. He was a revelation on the ground. I couldn't believe how he travelled in the race. And Glenn Killen winning that race, named after Limestone Lad, was great stuff. It really was. Like, and the story of Harry Kelly getting the Bow horses, like it's just the way life is, I suppose. Brian Hayes then getting all these good rides on them, and Brian having a great run of it of late. He's a really good jumper, this horse, as well, and it was great to see the Bow family after. I was really looking forward to him going over fences, because he could be a Grade 1 horse over fences. Nothing to say he won't. And they're a family that just, they really do wear their heart in their proverbial sleeve. As a cracking effort from the horse. And yeah, look, it'll be interesting to see him go and chase him, but good racing at Nace, and again, the ground looked to hold up quite well.
Yeah, it didn't look too bad really on the day, considering the amount of rain that fell. You mentioned the bumper horse there, Paddy. He's got into, I think, favour for the Cheltenham bumper now. Love Sign Danu, the Richie colours. Again, Patrick seemed to be glowing about this horse after the race, and you can see why. Look, at 24-legged winner, he was fairly impressive.
Yeah, he was very impressive. It was after listening to Patrick after he won, the horse probably wasn't showing a whole pile at home. You rarely see Patrick bucking out in front there and doing the donkey work. Usually he'll tip around and find the best of the ground with a lead and take it up a furlong down and be confident on a horse. But 2 mile 2, nearly 2 mile 3 bumper, and the way they rode him suggested that they thought he probably needed a bit of a trip. But yeah, he was strong, wasn't he? He jumped off. He increased it when he wanted to increase it. He turned in, holding on to him. A couple of horses in behind looked like they were going to, get upsides him even and give him something to think about. But like Goran, Nace can hold a lot of racing and a lot of rain. Away from the stands is very, very bad in Nace, but the rest of it kind of holds up. But in that sort of weather, it's hard work up that hill in Nace. You don't see it on the TV how much of a pull is there, but geez, that horse powered through the line. So look, I'd say he is favourite for lacking of better performance in bumper horses. I don't know how good a bumper it is. Yeah, look, he deserves to be in around 7 or 10 to 1, but we haven't had that, Bambino Fevers type of horse or real standout bumper horse yet. Like we haven't had a standout novice for the Supreme, but yeah, it looks a really nice horse, Emma. And I'll just give a mention, like Johnny, to Glenn Killen. He was a horse I put up a few weeks back when he got rid of the rider. And if you watch his past runs before he ran in the Grade 1, he was quite careful at his hurdles. And that's how he got rid of his jockey in Tipperary. But he's starting to get braver. He's starting to stand off them a little bit more. And he's a lot of upside, this horse. A big, powerful horse. Probably won't go to Cheltenham, but he's one to keep in your notebook for Aintree now,
Just that race at Nace, last year was the night agent of Davy Fitzgerald, who hasn't won since, was beaten by Gavin Cromwell runner, who actually won the first race in Goran on Tyestes Day just gone. I'd say it's kind of like, it's 2 miles, 2.5 on heavy ground. I'd say it's a real stayers race. I'm not the Cheltenham bumper. I'm just, if I owned a horse, not a race, I'd be overly bothered about running him in, particularly if he's a long-term chasing prospect and you don't know what the ground would be like. You saw like Calypso's Chance was hot favourite in the race last year and just didn't look a bumper horse at all on the day, really. It's kind of a funny race. So I don't know if either of these horses necessarily our Trigger or Love Sign Danger, because it's such a different test to what you get at Cheltenham. I just don't know the relevance necessarily of the Cheltenham bumper, but long term they'll be exciting horses.
Yeah, I'd say probably the fact, I think Jasmine DeVoe won the race 2 years ago, probably getting people a little bit excited as well, that maybe Woody's targeting it with another good horse. But look, he was impressive. And look, maybe like Paddy said, maybe there's been a lack of maybe real standout bumper performance, which probably makes him de facto favourite for the champion bumper. But look, with the man who's training him and the man on board, I definitely wouldn't be doubting him coming up to the festival in a few weeks' time. But we'll move on, lads. The story reported in the Racing Post this week by Peter Scargill. Matt Chapman, I suppose one of the biggest broadcasters in racing, saw his company fold I think back in March, but it's only being reported at the moment. His company's gone into liquidation with significant debts. Johnny, what did you make of the story that broke there in the Racing Post?
Yeah, I've had very few experiences of Matt, and he's I think he's one of these people that you see his persona on TV. There's actually an element of Frankie Dettori about him. His persona on TV is completely different to the person that you would meet. Like if you were in the press room in Ireland, he'd be like very, very quiet, like mannerly, not imposing himself at all, anything like that. So a lot of his stuff on TV, it is a kind of a persona. And I think with Matt, like there are too many journalists, myself included, who just don't ask the tough questions. I think in fairness to Matt Chapman, like he's not afraid to be made a fool of, I suppose, or not afraid to be kind of the cartoon character in the whole racing thing, and he's the role he plays is definitely important. Like he's a lot of talent at what he does, but it's just sad. Like I don't know the ins and outs of it. The solicitor said these matters have nothing to do with horse racing, gambling, or his employment. So I've no idea how it's come to this, but money's not everything, and I definitely wish Matt the best, that he comes out of this, and I hope he'll be supported in work as well.
Yeah, 100%. Look, we'll move on. I don't think there's a whole pile to add to that one there. HRI this week announced 4.3 million increase in prize money. It's part of a 3-year plan, I think, to kind of increase the prize money across all grades, I suppose, of racing. I think the increase is split fairly equally between the flat and the jumps. There'll be new minimums in all graded and group races, increasing, and I think the lowest grade of racing is staying at about 10 grand minimum value, but there'll be less races run for the minimum value there. So it's a positive step, I suppose, for Irish racing. Paddy, seeing this increase is probably something that stakeholders in racing have been calling for a long time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, look, Johnny and myself, I think, are saying it here a good while about how poor the prize money is in Ireland, and the cost of everything going sky high. Whether it be feed bills or shavings or whatever it is, there's a lot of overheads, and it's all going up. So if you don't have people buying horses to try and win a few quid to keep the horse in training, well, then it's just negative all the time. So like you have horses now that might win 2 or 3 races in the year, and it's still costing a lot of money to train them. The prize money is just not covering it. So yeah, any increase in it is a positive in my book. Just had a quick flick around to see kind of where it was coming from, and I think the ITBA have put a few quid in, and I think entering horses in racing has gone up. I don't know how much it's gone up by to enter a horse in a race, but that seems to be where some of the funding is coming from, and I think half is coming from HRI, if I'm right.
Yeah, I think it's marginal increases in the entry fees. It's not going to be an increase for those low level races. Like I said, their kind of price fund isn't being increased an awful lot. So like to enter a horse in a 0 to 60 handicap on the flat or a 0 to 100 on the over jumps, that the entry fee will be the same there, which I'm sure owners and trainers for those greater horses, they can be expensive to keep. They'll be happy with that. But yeah, like you said, I think the funding's coming from HRI, owners, race courses are putting some money in as well, and I think an increase in the EBF sponsorship as well. Johnny, look, it's vital, I suppose, at the lower levels, but also at the top levels as well. I think to keep attracting owners to invest in Irish racing, you have to have prize money that reflects the kind of stature of the races here.
Yeah, like this came out just sort of the weekend. It might have gotten that much coverage really. Although the racing media is so small now anyway. Maybe this will go over the heads of people in the general sporting kind of audience, I suppose. I think the first sentence of the press release from HRI is quite telling, where basically it says it seeks to drive investment in Irish bloodstock and restore competitiveness to Irish prize money levels. And that's basically HRI admitting that our prize money levels are not competitive anymore. And that's really stark stuff. And this arises from that, freedom of information request, I suppose, that we saw the stuff in the Irish field about HRI looking for more prize money. I think they deserve credit here, because there looks to have been quite a bit of effort put into how this prize money is divvied up. And I'd actually agree with the way that it's tailored more. It's kind of a pyramid structure, but not necessarily at the bottom level, because like there's so many low grade races, and I'd be quite harsh on this, and I very much include myself in this as an owner. If you're losing money as an owner with a horse who's struggling at the low level, just get out of it, because it's not worth your while, and you're paying the same training fees as if you own Gaelic Warrior, or if you own a Grade 1 horse, whatever. So there are too many horses running at the low level as it is, and I think there almost should be a concentration there, by virtue of owners just being realistic about the cost of horse at the low level. And this, I think, attempts to restore better prize money for good horses, like, and the graded horses in Ireland now, and some of the stakes race on the flat, like, we are very much becoming the poor relation. And it's become apparent in terms of, like, 10 years ago we were always lauding Ireland versus Britain. It's gone the other way. It's not that British prize money is great by any stretch. I mean, again, we shouldn't compare to Saudi Arabia, where they have a load of oil money and the government runs it, or the likes of Hong Kong or a place like that. It's not comparable. So we have a prize money structure here that's heavily reliant on the government. But it annoys me when you read stories in the paper, all this government prize money going for rich owners like JP McManus and John Magnier. Like, when, God almighty, like, what's JP McManus getting out of prize money relative to what he's putting into the game in terms of training fees and buying horses? Like, it's nothing to do with that. But, like, if we're going to have good horses coming over here, we have to address our prize money situation. And in fairness, in the HRI press release, you Phelan Cunningham from the trainers, Paul Hensey from the Association of Irish Racehorse race courses, Joe Foley from the breeding sector, David Hyland from the Irish Racehorse owners. It sounds like there was a good bit of kind of conversation across the industry here, and it's not straightforward. But I do feel with prize money, we don't have a magic wand of getting like an autocratic leader to just double prize money. That's not the case here. We have to come up with prize money in a fair way, and it's difficult. And I feel, without having had an awful lot of time to go into this, I think they've done a good job. Our prize money is still not good in this country. Like, it's very, very average in a relative sense. But I do feel this is a good effort at improving matters, and it's quite well thought out. I'd say a lot of thought went into it.
Yeah, 100%. And, like, it's good, like you said, to see that they're maybe admitting that the problem was there. Because, like you said, look, people will argue, why are we giving more money to these wealthy owners? But kind of just echoing your point there, like, the amount, like, even outside of the JP McManus's, John Magners, like, there's plenty of very wealthy people investing an awful lot of money into Irish racing and getting very little back out of it. Like, realistically, like, there could be people spending hundreds of thousands, up to millions on new stock every year, and they're running around for 10, 15, 20 grand if they're lucky to win one in the year. So it's like, to keep these people interested in the sport. I know it's not going to probably give them back their whole investment, but it makes it a little bit of a softer blow if they're spending big money on lots of horses to be winning relatively decent prize money. Like you said, we'll never be able to probably compete with the likes of the Middle East, and we saw the Everest ran in America there at the weekend. Like, it's mental prize money over there. But it's a massive problem, I suppose, in flat racing more so than jumps, like, that trainers actually aren't able to retain their horses anymore. Because let's say, Johnny, if you owned a horse running in a 2-year-old maiden, he runs well, he wins, he's second, he's third, he's fourth. You get a call from Hong Kong, they're offering you €400,000, like, and you're saying, why would I bother keeping this horse? And he might never win again. Even if he keeps winning, I'm not going to win it back in prize money. So, like, they're losing the horse.
I think, Emma, in a bit like the League of Ireland there, I don't think we should be arrogant enough to say it shouldn't be like that. Ireland's a small country, like, it punches above its weight, but, like, that's just the natural order of money. Like, if the money's in Hong Kong and you're an owner or a trainer, and I know it's sad to see a lot of the Premier handicappers go and all of that, but that's just kind of the nature of it. We're a small country, racing a peripheral sport in Ireland, so it's probably just the nature of it. But we need to have that international market to be able to sell them.
100% we need an international market, but, like, I think the prize money should reflect the grade of horse we have. Like, if we keep exporting these horses out of the country, the level of racing in Ireland is just going to keep this improving, and that'll reflect, the horses will leave after winning their maiden, and then, when you get to the Group 1 stage, there'll be 1 or 2 stables who are able to afford to keep their horses, and they'll keep running against each other, and it's just the way it'll go. But look, it's good, I suppose, to see HRI are addressing it, and it's a good step forward. There's probably more work needs to be done, but definitely positive, and I'm sure everyone involved in racing will be happy to see it. A bit more news there around Leopardstown that broke during the week. HRI are beginning consultations with the racing industry around the submission of a new plan, which could include proposals for a hotel, an arena, and an expansion of the capacity of Leopardstown Racecourse from 25,000 from 20,000, to new capacity of 25,000. Johnny, what did you make of this story that broke during the week? Is it something that you think is needed in Leopardstown?
Yeah, I was just talking to the new manager at Leopardstown at Gordon Elliott's launch the other day, and I was just talking to him about the getting the summer flat evenings back. But it was actually just the summer flat evening meetings being kind of back to something like their old glory. But it got me thinking about Leopardstown, how uniquely placed it is as Dublin's racetrack, and like, racetracks definitely need to evolve to become like, can you really justify like spending all this money, we'll say, on a football ground or a racetrack that is basically used for a few times a year for a race meeting or a football ground? It's very, very hard to do that, like when there's so much pressure on construction costs in this country. So maybe Leopardstown here is trying to evolve as a business. I was only in the old Curra Hotel once or twice, much obviously many years ago, but I was struck by how many people lamented the loss of the hotel at the Curra when the redevelopment was done up, and a racetrack that has a hotel beside it. I remember going to Wolverhampton before, and that was a feature there where you could basically stay at the racetrack. Like that to me makes a lot of sense. And like, Leopardstown is in a pretty wealthy part of Dublin. Like, if you were to develop facilities like that, it would have plenty going for it. So whatever they say this will cost, it'll cost a lot more. That's just the nature of these things. But yeah, it looks like a positive thing for Leopardstown, which is in an interesting place at the moment because the National Hunts Fair is so popular, but it kind of dies a death then after DRF.
Yeah, look, I suppose you see it at a few different tracks. I think there's one in Doncaster, a hotel at the top of the straight there. I could be wrong now, but Paddy, what did you make of it? Is it something you think? Look, I suppose increasing the capacity makes sense for sure. Like when you see maybe like the Dublin Racing Festival and Christmas, like Johnny says, they don't have the same demand for the flat, but there's people fighting for tickets for some of the biggest jumps racing. So getting more people in the gate and having it comfortable, I suppose, for people as well. Increasing the capacity, having a bit more room around, is a plus, I suppose. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was great news, Emma. I've obviously spent time in Australia and watch a good bit of international racing and like that. Like, I kind of compare it to, say, Flemington. You're in the middle of Melbourne City, and you have Caulfield there as well. But Flemington now has built kind of apartments looking down the straight from behind. And because of the view of a racecourse, they're probably worth 2 million, for an apartment. So it's prime real estate, and it's very it's a novelty. If you build a hotel on the racecourse, that will thrive. I guarantee it'll thrive. And if they up the facilities, like for arenas and stuff like that, if you build it, they will come. You're in the middle of Dublin City, and maybe that's just what it's missing. It might be just missing that next step. Because there is an old feel about Leopardstown, and maybe that suits the jumps in the middle of winter, when it's cold and grey and a bit dreary. But the summer vibe is not there, really. I've been to a couple of the Bulmers live events, and it's just, it was fine. But I think if you had a hotel, it just brings the level of sophistication up about the race course. And look, it's a summer meeting. You want to be down there. You could have people that have never been to the race meeting staying in a hotel looking out in a race course. It'll be unique, and I think it'll work, and it's positive. From my end, it's very, very positive.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like, if you're thinking of hotels in Dublin City, it's probably not many better views than looking out on Leopardstown racetrack. In fairness, even if there was no race on, it probably wouldn't be a bad place to stay. But as we move on, we'll kind of stick on the subject of Leopardstown for a second. We're not going to go into too much detail now because John, like we said, Johnny will be previewing it all during the week out on Friday on the Irish Edge podcast. But Dublin Racing Festival, massive weekend ahead of us. Paddy, look, it's kind of there's a lot to go through here, but what are you kind of looking forward to most of the weekend?
Well, I suppose it's probably going to tell us everything where we can kind of wait to know about Cheltenham, to be honest. Buzzing for it. Probably haven't been as excited for a Dublin Racing Festival as this one. Kind of hoping some novice of Willie's just pops out there, that maybe he said, he was coughing there at Christmas and now he's a weapon and now he's favourite for the Supreme. And maybe it won't happen, maybe it will. The horse I'm most interested in is Romeo Coolio. Hopefully he sticks him over 2 mile. I've watched that race back again over Christmas, and do you know what? I think he's going to be a much better horse for it. I think it's the first time he had to jump a fence at speed. And the horse in front, what's his name?
Irish
Panther,
Panther,
Irish Panther. Like, that horse has a great chance in Cheltenham, by the way. You know, the way he jumped, he never missed a beat, and he was a real slick, quick 2-miler. Romeo Coolio, just the more I look at it, he's going to learn a lot from that. And it feels like he'll be running over 2 miles at the DRF with the rain. I could still see him popping up in an article, you know that. So I'm really interested to see him back over 2 miles. And if he has just sharpened up a bit mentally, that it's not all really easy, because his 2 first chases were very easy for him. And he might have just got a little fright with the speed the last day, but I think he would have learned from it. And yeah, I think he could be, it'll go really, really well for him, or it'll be, no, he's going 2.5 somewhere, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure Gordon will be keen to give him another kind of good acid test before he goes to Cheltenham, because like it's probably like the Arkle or maybe don't run at Cheltenham. I can't really see it. I don't know, would he step him up to 3 miles so dramatically so soon? So yeah, it'll be a fair test. Johnny, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I hope Kopek de Boer's runs to take on Romeo. We'll see. I certainly just hope that the graded races aren't full of odds-on shots, and I hope they're competitive. If Narciso Haas turns up, very intriguing to see how he gets on. And Romeo Coolio, I'd say he'll definitely run in the Arkle, as you say. He's only the 2 options at Cheltenham, but we'll see. Looking forward to talk the talk as well. But I just hope that. I hope it's competitive and interesting what the ground is like, because the weather looks terrible in Dublin for the foreseeable, actually. So hopefully we've good competitive races in the Grade 1s, but it's another idea that was brought in. It was obviously born out of the Irish Champions weekend. I think it was a very good idea, and massive British interest next weekend.
100%. I can't wait for the Irish Gold Cup on the Saturday night. Like you said, it's great to see the British challengers over there. Rebecca Curtis bringing over Haughty Clore, giving him a real test ahead of the Gold Cup. Sean Bowen coming over to ride him as well adds a kind of another element of excitement. Kind of the best jockey in the UK coming over to ride as well. Always good to see it. And yeah, Galloping Deschamps going for the 4 in a row. I'll go up just to see him anyway. But yeah, it'll be class. The ground will be interesting. Like, it's amount of rain that's probably due to fall this week, but we couldn't have 2 of the best trained courses in Ireland scheduled to be on Thursday and Leopardstown over the weekend. Probably only just turning yielding at Thurles probably at the moment, even though there's probably been 100 mils of rain in the last day. But it'll probably be worse than we normally see in Leopardstown, but it probably won't be as attritional as we saw in Goran last week anyway, that's for sure. But lads, we'll wrap it up there. But before we go, I'd ask you both for maybe a horse to follow from the week gone by. Johnny, I go to you first, maybe.
I'll actually give Soldiers 3. He's a 5-year-old gelding, but it's almost just to mention Orla Tynan. You have the very, very odd young woman coming through on the flat in Ireland. It hasn't been comparable to Britain, and I definitely feel that we've a good time at the moment in relation to some of the girls who become proper season jockeys, hopefully in due course, and take on the lads at the top level on the flax. We haven't had enough of that in Ireland since like the days of Cathy Gannon and that. But Orla Tynan to ride 42 to 1 double was magic. And Soldiers 3, it wasn't a great race, but it was a very good effort from him. So thought that was a horse to take out of Dundalk, and interesting to see Rhys Hullen with another winner as well. He's really, really flying at it. It's one thing about Dundalk, like the racing can grind on you a bit, but to see these young kids coming through is part of its attraction, I think, and brilliant stuff from Orla to have that double.
Yeah, the strength of the lady riders in the flat in Ireland's probably pretty good at the moment. Like you said, Orla and Siobhan Rutledge back from Australia now as well. Nicola Burns, one of the best young talents in the country. So yeah, they're fairly strong now, the ladies division in Ireland, in fairness, on the flat. And Paddy, what caught your eye over the last week?
Shuttle Diplomacy for Tom Cooper. I think he's a good horse. I think Tom said he might be a little bit tricky to keep right, but he was very good in Nace the other day, and I'd say, for a winter horse, he's a horse to keep on your side. And I'll just reiterate what you said. There's some really good girls in Irish racing, and keep an eye on Anna McGuinness over jumps. Anna's as good a rider over a jump as I've ever seen, boy or girl. So hopefully she's able to get the rewards for her ability.
Fair compliment there. She's based with Willie now, I think, Paddy, is she? a couple of
She
days anyway.
was with Willie anyways. I'm not 100% sure where she is now, but yeah, I've had her schooling and have had her on the simulator and stuff like that, and she's mustered. Yeah.
I think
Very good.
I was there for her first winter feast up the north, and she's just a great character. Just like basically has this attitude, like just get on with it, do it, like no limit to your ambition. Like, and she's written she wrote about 10 or 12 winners last season with that on the basis of that kind of connection with Willie and some other rides. But I'm telling you, if you get praise like that from Paddy Flood, the pressure is on for 2026.
Yeah, to catch your eye hearing Paddy saying that, and like just like you said, kind of her getting the rides from the big stables and big owners, like it's kind of speaks for itself, I suppose. And definitely one to watch out for. I'm going to go Nace as well. Yesterday, I suppose like any of the juvenile hurdles now, kind of on the run up to Cheltenham, would be worth keeping an eye on. Just the fact that you have to get a run now. Willie's probably scrambling around to try and get all these French horses out before Cheltenham. You have to get 1-1 in America, 120 at least from that to run in the Triumph even now, but. It was a horse, I don't think he's actually entered in the Triumph, Saratoga for Porrick Roche, who caught the eye back in third there. I don't think Mark Walsh was maybe too disappointed to get caught in the box coming up the home straight with this fella. He was a fairly good flat horse for Ballydoyle. He was actually subject of a controversial enough gamble in Nace towards the end of the season. Remember, I think Dwayne Lorden tried to swap onto him or something, but he wasn't allowed. He didn't win that race in the end anyway, but I'd say maybe he could be getting lined up for, if he got another run in, maybe for the Fred Winter at the festival. He's a horse, I'd say, with a fair bit of ability, and he definitely catch your eye on that run in Nace anyway at the weekend. So he's probably one to put in the notebooks from there. But lads, thanks everyone for tuning in, and thanks Paddy and Johnny for all your contributions. Make sure to tune in to Johnny on Friday on the Irish Edge, so preview the Dublin Racing Festival, and we'll be back on Monday to review all of the action of the weekend gone by.